First things first, you already win. You already him. You don't gotta pretend. Fuck them, you already king. You stay real, you confident in your skin. It's all now. Sit in the power that you already in. This the story of a master from a true Bedouin, far away from home than few ever been. First round pick, league of the smooth gentlemen. The game rigged like 50 said it's a cruel sentiment. I'm from the era when lyrics and bars is over everything. 5-star veteran. You couldn't walk in my fucking shoes or carry them. Excuse my borderline is very thin. Married to the game like ever since maybe 2010 I realized most of y'all not serious. What up, what up, what up? How's everybody doing? Today is October 15th and it is, what is this, episode 86? Am I right on that? 85, episode 85, and I've called it Ooh La La because I have no clue what's gonna come out today, what we're gonna talk about, where it's gonna go. I have no clue. I just know this. I am making a commitment for the next 30 days. I'm gonna get on here and speak 30 times in 30 days. So we're gonna have a 30 for 30, and you're gonna see more of my face. Woo! Yesterday I had a conversation with Arturo Vizcarra. Check that out, number 84. We called it Revolutionary Healing because it was a really cool episode that started with questions and like discourse around healing, but also went into the political and talked about, you know, Arturo and I both have a background in like international relations, and that's where our passion is in humanity. So it went to discussions of truth and all that stuff. It was a good one. I enjoyed it. I hope you enjoy it too when you check it out. Yeah, man, so much going on. But we are doing the 30 for 30. What happened this week? What's the deal? What can we talk about? You know, one of the things that's really caught my attention, and I'm gonna have to talk about it whether it's here or not. I think I might write something as well. Is seeing the backlash for Ta-Nehisi Coates and his recent work. As he's written this book, The Message, and he's doing kind of a book tour, and through the book tour he is getting the ire of a certain group of people. And I don't just mean Zionists here. I mean to say, or express Zionists. I mean to say, like, there's a group of like media people and book reviewers, and what was this article that was released? I saw an interview that he did on MSNBC where they quoted this article where this person went in on him. By the way, so in this article that Ta-Nehisi wrote, he visited 3 places and he spoke about some of the unique political observations that he has about the three different places. One of the 3 places in this book was Israel. He made a visit to Israel, and he concludes in no uncertain terms that the state of Israel is an ethnocratic apartheid state. And this has angered quite a few people, but this is his personal observation as a journalist who went there before October 7th, by the way. He went in the middle of 2023. So this book is long in the waking. What is crazy about the book, and I wonder how it would have been released if all of the events of the last year and the genocide hadn't happened, but the real powerful part of the book, really, and I haven't read it, but of the speaking tour and everything that he's doing, is not so much the content of the book, because again, particularly on the Israel-Palestine question, he's not saying anything incredibly new or breathtaking. What he is doing is he's doing it in the middle of a moment when everyone is being pushed and cajoled and fear-mongered into a place of silence and quiet about the ongoing genocide, which has the potential and has already expanded into a larger regional war. Not just, and when you're quiet about the genocide, you're also quiet about the media part in this country, which to me is crazy. And you're also quiet about the congressional stuff, which is crazy. The fact that Congress signed a law to, the House of Representatives at the very least, attempted to, I don't even know if they passed this thing, but they attempted to, either a declaration, not a law, a declaration that conjoins, anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. Anti-Zionism, the legitimate ability to critique a political ideology, to critique a government and a political ideology and a movement that has violent components to it. Um, to join that with the idea of critiquing or having a bias towards a religious group, right? So not only are we made to not notice the genocide, we are then made to not notice the manipulation of Congress. We're made to not notice the conversations in the media, the way the circuitous nature of the titles in the media, um, the stories that seem to frequently miss the mark. We're not allowed to notice that. We're not allowed to talk about that. But the fun thing is that I've been talking about it all the whole time, and we've been making fun of this stuff over at Newsbreak Memes. We've been pointing out um, this hypocrisy in media coverage, the lack of respect for humanity, the lack of respect for international relations, um, the gross, absurd nature of like the press conferences, the State Department press conferences, and the House press conferences. I really don't know how the House spokeswoman, Karine Jean-Pierre, how she does it. I know that she knows quite well about the nature of things, the nature of this genocide, and um, it's very difficult for me to understand how these people do the work that they do. But this is the context, and in this whole thing, there's a genocide happening on, and there's all this again escalation after escalation. People are is it the hostages we're getting after? Are we trying to eliminate Hamas? Is that the thing? Is there a greater Israel they're trying to build? And all these phases of this thing has evolved, right? Where the different claims being made about what the aims are. And one thing that I see people doing, Zionists who are sympathetic and supportive and defensive of Israel, they always try to cordon off some little space that is appropriate. So I remember early on, we were talking about Gaza, and people would be like, or I would bring up the West Bank. I would bring like, yo, it's not just in Gaza, it's not just where Hamas is, it's also in the West Bank. There's how do you defend this settler violence? And they would go, okay, the West Bank, this is not about the West Bank though. This is about Gaza, and this is about Hamas. The West Bank is another thing. We have to handle this, get our hostages back. So, and then as you see, they started to arm further settlers in the West Bank, and they've gotten more aggressive. They've actually, it's actually a full blown war situation in the West Bank as well. And then you kind of see this recession back. They recede into a different space. Where there's always, there's always some reason to do this and that. There's always some reason. And one of the ways that they do this is so many, right? So many rhetorical moves in order to justify what's going on. One of the ways is this idea that, yes, so we look at the horrible thing, killing civilians, killing women, children, blowing up mosques, blowing up hospitals, and all this stuff, and they come up with all these narratives for why that's justifiable, because people are hiding there and this and that and other thing. But the other one is the idea that, look, this is war. After October 7th, everything is different. We have the free license to do all the stuff we're doing because this is war. This is war. Before October 7th, we wanted peace. We were at peace. All we do is peace, man. This is all about peace. We've been living this peaceful society. We awesome. We love women and we love gay people, unlike our neighbors. Wink, wink. We're all about peace. We do, you know what I'm saying? And when you bring up the fact that in 2023, I forget which international org, is it Doctors Without Borders? It's been documented that 2023 was actually the most, and this is prior to October 7th, the first 10 months of October 2023 was one of the most bloody and violent and death-laden periods for Palestinian people. And there's about 3,000 or more Palestinian people held in jails and prisons in Israel without, many of them without charge, many of them small children, many of them, even the ones with the charges are incredibly minor, like rock throwing or something like this. And they're held indefinitely. And this has been a thing that people have talked about for a long time. But all of these things, as you try to bring this up, they get slapped away. It's like, no, 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 no. No, no, no. Israel was great. Before October 7th, everything was a beautiful thing. Um, and in comes Ta-Nehisi Coates with this new book, using his entire cachet, his political capital, as a well-credentialed, successful writer and journalist. And he says, no, that narrative isn't true either. That's another lie. That's yet another lie. All of these lies used as justifications for why this group of people has the license to act viciously and barbarically and terribly for long periods, and to engage in, dismantling the international code books and law, attacking all of the international institutions, breaking everything that we understand about protecting the lives of civilians and non-combatants, and lying about it repeatedly, engaging in a breathtaking psyop. I mean, we're gonna unfold it. It's gonna be incredible to watch and learn about the kind of things that we're living through right now. Making young students on campuses in this country feel unsafe. There are claims that different students feel unsafe on campuses. Students protesting a genocide feel unsafe on campus. Threats about their potential employment after school. We watch journalists be tight-lipped. We watch the professional class of journalists who are supposed to be bringing us the truth. We watch them become tight-lipped. We watch them lie and say that, and try to act as though everything started on October 7th, which is exactly the narrative that Benjamin Netanyahu wants. That they perform this. We see the thing with Dana Bash in an interview with Netanyahu, in fact, with the war criminal, and gave him a grand welcoming, just like our Congress did. And she said to him, well, we know that this is the Jewish state. And so because it is the Jewish state, we know it puts life first and foremost. It's incapable of being anything more than this idealistic avatar, this theme park. I'm going to describe this wonderful theme park of a country that is, always puts life first. And so that confirms that the Palestinians are evil and animals, as they said. And it confirms that Israelis have the right to do absolutely everything that they're doing and more, because literally you see that there's no limit. There's nothing that they will stop. There's nothing that they will say, okay, well, they continue to just simply continue to regurgitate the rationales from the IDF, given to them by the IDF. It's been openly exposed that everyone kind of knows it, and we just kind of have to deal with that. It seems. Anyone who's still watching any of these stations or reading these papers that are compromised. In that context, in that swirl of fear and people being unable to speak and images of horrendous bodies and children being burned alive, and in the context of bombings blowing up, aid workers, Central Food Kitchen, destroying, intentional. We know it was intentional. They showed the bombs like go right through the logo of the van on the top. It's brilliant. The technologies that they have, they could be very precise, and they are. And they're also doing mass casualties as well. In that context, Ta-Nehisi Coates says, hey, before October 7th, this was an apartheid. This was an ethno-state apartheid. With not just kind of de jure practices of separation and apartheid and racial preference, but in their laws and in the practices and in the everyday livelihoods. And that's what the reality is. And that's the context, actually, that October 7th comes from. And people go, oh, well, apartheid, I don't think people even get a sense of it. But I mean, here, is this the one? Da-da-da. I'm gonna try to find this clip of this IDF soldier describing a very common practice at the time in the West Bank. If I can just find it. But before I even show it to you, I mean, even this entire context of like of what Israel was and what the occupied territories was and that like how these things came to be. International law requires that occupied territories are protected by the occupiers. It's a requirement that the occupier sees the occupied territory as their territory and treat it as their own and protect the people there. They do not have a right to self-defense. That's just what is. That's what international law is. That's what reality is. Even though there's a whole discourse on cable news and in the media, and a lot of trash people on the internet with opinions. There's a lot of opinions. And then there's the reality of international law. And there's the reality of the conditions on the ground in that part of the world. And the reality with international law is that occupied territories, people who are occupying do not have the right to self-defense. And the reason that is, if you think about it, the logic is this. The occupied people want their self-determination. The occupiers have to have an incentive to behave and to not steal their land and to not kill them indiscriminately. And so or to leave, let the people have their self-determination. And so those are the options. And Israel occupied and carried out not just periods of violent, what some have called mowing the lawn, but even just the day-to-day practices, yo. This IDF soldiers talking about, they randomly, first thing they do, they check to make sure that the homes, they're going to a home of someone who's innocent. And then they go and they go to a home of someone who's innocent, and they go and they harass them. They go and knock on the door. They take the children, they put them in a different room. They take the father, they put him over here, and they just ransack the place and look around and say that they're looking for something, and then they leave. And they say that, and he says that he does this. They do this purely as a fear tactic. It was purely a thing for control. It's purely a tactic to make the Palestinian families understand who's in control, who's powerful and who's not. And people might be crying. Eventually, like in some cases, some people, it's a commonplace thing. In fact, here it is. Let's go watch the joint right here.
מדינה פלסטינית, וזה, ואנחנו גדלנו עם התפיסה שלצד מדינת ישראל תקום מדינה פלסטינית, וזה מתוך סולם הערכים הדמוקרטי שעליו גדלתי בבית. אבל אז בגיל 18 התגייסתי לצה"ל, שירתי 3 שנים כלוחם בסיירת נחל, בצוות צלפים, ושירתתי בדיקטטורה צבאית, שהיום היא כבר בת 57 שנים. כחייל אני פלשתי לבתים פלסטינים באמצע הלילה, בנוהל שנקרא מיפויים. זה אומר שבאופן שרירותי שולחים אותנו לשכונה, בשכם לדוגמה, דופקים דלת באמצע הלילה, מעירים את כל בני המשפחה. אני כצלם של הצוות מדביק את המשפחה על הקיר ומצלם להם את הפרצוף.
In fact, hold on, I feel like I should read this. He says they would go into a house, Palestinian home, in the middle of the night. They would make the family stand against the wall and take their photos. I'm going to play it, and I'm going to keep the volume low, and I'll actually kind of read the English as this person is speaking their language. Walk around the house and take photos of other things as well. During this time, my officer would be sitting in front of the head of the household, writing on a piece of paper all the information about the family, who works, where they do work, who studies, where they study. And at the day, we would draw a map on the paper, hence mapping. And then we would go to the next house and the next house and so on. And in one night, the elite unit goes through an entire neighborhood. When we arrived afterwards at the base, we would throw that piece of paper away. I would delete the photos from the memory card of my camera. Why? Because we weren't actually searching for someone. The order we got before going on these missions was to create a feeling of being chased among the Palestinian population. Because Palestinian who feels chased is a Palestinian that is easier to control. And that, at the end of the day, was the mission in the occupied territories. Okay, so that is a testimony from an IDF soldier about kind of a routine, what it is. And when we think about history in this country, we think about slavery and we think about the Jim Crow South. I mean, you have to really think about it as such, that this was the kind of thing. It was the Jim Crow South with a border fence and wall and the most surveyed situation in the world, and checkpoints set up with a similar sort of purpose, not to really do anything other than to make things uncomfortable, to slow things down, to show the power of whatever. There's even people going to the hospital, let's say, people who have to be late for work, to hold them over for 45 minutes and such, or an hour, just to do it. And to do it knowingly and to do it with, with the energy that the occupier does. And you see it in the videos. And so Ta-Nehisi Coates comes out and attests to all of this and makes it very plain and doesn't mince language and doesn't try to use euphemism. And the thing is that the entire chattering class, the media chattering class, is entirely unused to this. They're used to euphemism and fearful quiet and talking around things and no, the fence isn't this, we know that I've heard the fence described as thicker and longer than the Berlin Wall, but it's called a security fence, and it's given a logic that allows it to be. And so in that context, I'm gonna go to the thing I saw on the Daily Wire. There we go, this thing. Let me share my screen again. So here's what we see on the Daily Wire, Crazy stuff. The Daily Wire, he posts a new article and video. This worldview is totally evil and now it's mainstream. So Ta-Nehisi Coates and Trevor Noah have an evil worldview, according to Ben Shapiro. There's something about what Ta-Nehisi Coates says in that book, The Message, and what he said in this interview. I'm not going to do it in this episode because I'm going to do 30 minutes a day. So I'll do maybe I'll do it tomorrow, where we actually do a walkthrough on the Ta-Nehisi Coates and Trevor Noah video. But these are evil people with evil worldviews, according to Benjamin Shapiro. He says Ta-Nehisi Coates goes full terrorist. You see that caption there? Ta-Nehisi Coates goes full terrorist, and we examine just how deep his ideology has spread. The comment, then he goes on to talk about other stuff. Insane stuff. Insane stuff. There's nothing remotely terrorist about what Ta-Nehisi Coates has written and what he's observed. It's exactly the opposite. And he's nervous because the narratives, the lies, the Hasbara narratives that he jumped to support and create and spread through his propaganda company are all breaking down, right? We've already broken down the 40 beheaded babies thing, that was crazy and a lie. We understand that Zaka lies related to that, trying to make October 7th even more horrendous than it was. It was a day with death and destruction. But in order to justify what is to come, the last year, they decided they needed more. Not only that, the concept of these hospitals, the first thing they did was to destroy the medical infrastructure in Gaza. And the claim was that there was a whole series of tunnels and all this stuff. Who saw the video? There was like a 3D video that broke down the underground system of tunnels and all that. But there's none of that. There's none of that sophisticated stuff. It's just a bunch of stories that were used to justify everything they're doing now. And so for Ta-Nehisi Coates to come out and speak this way and speak so honestly in this moment, it puts Ben Shapiro in a major bind. Ben Shapiro is on no level, nowhere near close to Ta-Nehisi Coates. Ta-Nehisi Coates is up here. Ben Shapiro is not even in the same conversation. Ben Shapiro is a charlatan, clown, liar, manipulative, carnival barker, racist, psyop, who has like a vanity news project that that fronts as a news organization and does these stupid documentaries and tries to make as much money as they can. And that's what they're doing. And that's really at the end of the day what they're doing. But when you're in the journalism space making money and being creative in the journalism space, you also get the double-edged sword of not only are you making money, but you're also setting the terms for people's understanding of reality. That's the other thing that you're doing when you're in the journalism space. That's why the journalism space has to be taken seriously. That's why you can't allow clowns and dickheads and assholes and grifters in the journalism space. The same way like Dave Chappelle gets really squirrely about the comedy space. He says the comedy space is a space for truth. And I fuck with him on that actually. Like I know that I understand concerns with comedy and protected groups and how comedy can be a gateway to divisive ideas and how all these things play out. But I also understand how he sees it that way. And I'll tell you what, I feel that way about journalism. I have that same passion for journalism. And it's wild to see a journalist like Ta-Nehisi Coates now have to deal with angry, scared, frightened racists who realize that that their narratives don't add up. That the explanations that they've been making, the ways they've been justifying letting Netanyahu have this power. Even Bill Maher, supposedly a liberal person for so many years, Bill Maher is a big fan of what Netanyahu's doing. He's like, oh, it's terrible. But someone's got to do the terrible thing. Someone's got to do the thing. And how does he justify it? Well, because they can't stop. The Arabs won't stop. The Arabs, they just hate us because they come up with whatever he needs. They hate us for our religion, and they won't stop. And every war that's ever been fought was started by the Arabs. There was never this and that, and they come up with all these things. Every language, every word choice is very, very interesting and intentional. Ta-Nehisi says no, actually. The people perpetrating this horrendous violence right now have been violent for decades. And that needs to be a part of the story. That needs to be a true part of the story. If you don't do that, you're very much like white Southerners who came up with interesting rationales and excuses for their violence and for their separations and for their social structures that categorize themselves at a higher place and saw it fit for them to strip certain humans of their self-determination because they invented a root story that allowed them to do it. And Ta-Nehisi says, no, I'm not going to allow you to do that now in the present. Not only is everything terrible since October 7th, also before, you have to consider who you've been and what you've been. I just find it crazy that Ben Shapiro could do that. I want it to be clear, Ben Shapiro, that Daily Wire thing, I saw it put out that they grossed like $9 million in 1 year. That's crazy. Doing advertisements, doing their documentaries, selling stupid chocolates and razor blades, lying, pitting people against each other, an evil worldview. Ta-Nehisi Coates has one. Ben Shapiro, who defends genocide, he's not evil. Ben Shapiro, who cut his teeth on denying, who built, the Daily Wire built itself largely on the wave of anti-trans, anti-non-binary sentiment, anti-gender pronoun sentiment. So he built himself on the confusion and the suffering, this confusion of the broader population and the suffering that he brought on against a population that he knows very little about. And neither does his idiot friend Matt Walsh. This is a reversal of reality. And when I look at it, I realize this is a confident motherfucker, yo. This is a dude who believes in himself. He believes in himself. And even as things shift and the walls close in and it becomes clear to him that he's a charlatan and a liar and people start to frame him properly, so he's less and less invited to panels to speak at important journalist panels, less and less invited to give commencement at schools or to impart any kind of wisdom anywhere. He's a piece of shit. Ben Shapiro is a piece of shit. No one should be listening to the words he has to say. Ben Shapiro should be selling pre-peeled oranges on the corner. He should not be in anybody's studio imparting any wisdom or knowledge, talking about facts or facts don't care about your feelings. It is insane. And so I look at it and I go, there's absolutely no way we're going to allow Ben Shapiro to speak that way about our preeminent thinkers and journalists. We won't have it. We won't have it, Ben Shapiro. And we're going to continue to expose all these people. Matt Walsh, Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson joined up with these people at Daily Wire. The manipulation of language, the capitalizing on media trends and on division. If we were in 1930s America, Ben Shapiro, this same person, would be egging on lynchings because that would be exciting and sell papers for him. That's the framing that we need to understand who Ben Shapiro is. It's an entirely different thing than Ta-Nehisi Coates. I don't even want Ta-Nehisi to talk to respond to any of this shit from Ben Shapiro. I don't even want Ta-Nehisi to waste his time with this clown. And that's my first episode. 30 for 30, or the second episode, because we did the one yesterday. 30 for 30. I will see you tomorrow. I'll probably watch the video maybe. We'll see what we do with that. 30 minutes. Sheba says, right, so like, is everyone else just supposed to ignore the expressed sentiments of the Israelis? Right. The expressed sentiments of the Israelis. That's important to point out. We have to understand that narratives are being created. The things you consider real are the congealed words and stories of people who grab the moment and claim it. And so all these claims about even like, you know, I remember Amanda Seales is a powerful black woman who's been speaking out against this genocide in Israel. This claim about black people and losing black people to anti-Semitism and all this stuff. No, the number one cause of anti-Semitism in the world is the state of Israel and its leader Netanyahu and the political party that's controlled it for a few decades now. I saw a quote from May Golan, a Knesset member. I believe she's a Knesset member, a member of their parliament. Let me look this up real quick. She's the Minister for Social Equality and the Advancement and Status of Women in Israel. And she says, I am personally proud of the ruins in Gaza. She says, I'm personally proud of the ruins in Gaza and that every baby, even 80 years from now, will tell their grandchildren what the Jews did, is what she says. when this is crazy. I reject that. I reject that entirely. I hope no one comes away with that narrative. There are young boys and girls in Brooklyn right now who are like, whoa, what the Jews did? What did I do? You know what I'm saying? Like, I hope no one makes those absurd connections that she's making. She's not doing anything on behalf of the Jews or anything related in any way to Judaism. She represents a monstrous, evil ideology. How dare they then pin the confusion about this moment, anti-Semitism, on someone else other than them, the people perpetrating the thing and claiming, hiding behind Jewry, hiding behind Judaism. What a crazy thing. Unbelievable. And Ta-Nehisi Coates has an evil worldview? Ooh, unbelievable. And if you don't claim the moment and claim the definitions, if you're too shy, you think, oh, I don't want to offend, it's really tough and dangerous and weird, then you allow Ben Shapiro to claim the moment and to brand a hero a terrorist. He called him a full terrorist. That's a serious thing, especially in this weird moment where these guys, these labels matter. It's quite a dangerous thing to do, and we won't stand for it. That's my episode. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Thanks a lot, y'all. What's my outro again, yo? Damn. I'm gonna remember the outro tomorrow. Peace. Last things first, you already win. You already him. You don't gotta pretend. Fuck them. You already king. You stay real. You confident in your skin. It's all now. Sit in the power that you already in. This the story of a master from a true Bedouin, far away from home than few ever been. First round pick, league of the smooth gentleman. The game rigged like 50 said it's a cruel sentiment. I'm from the era when lyrics and bars is over everything. 5-star veteran. You couldn't walk in my fucking shoes or carry them. Excuse my borderline is very thin. Married to the game like ever since maybe 2010. I realized most of y'all not serious. Point blank period. I flex and twist necks like cherry stems. Thought he was buried, but there he is, a new narrative. I keep winning.
They not used to what you bringing, kid.
I keep winning.
They don't even know what they looking at.
I keep winning.
Man, yo, pick one lane and stay in that
I
shit.
keep winning.
You came up on that hood shit.
I
my
keep
nigga,
winning.
Nobody seeing your vision for real.
I keep
man.
winning.
Even your friends don't fuck with you.
I keep winning.